Okay, folks, I can see that people have joined in. Just give me around 2 minutes or so. We will start the session as more people join in. I'll go ahead and share my screen as well. Okay. Okay, guys, I think we can get started. Uh, Let me just make sure that everything is working. Okay, folks, I think we can get started now. I hope you're able to see my screen and hear me. Just put a thumbs up in the Q&A box if you can hear me clearly, and we can get started, all right? Uh, all right. Yeah, I'm getting some. Yeah, or you could just raise your hand. Perfect, perfect. Okay, guys, let's get right into it then. There's a lot to cover today, and I want everybody over here today to pay attention to what I'm about to tell you all. I know it's been a little bit of a volatile week for crypto, but I truly believe that this week has given us a chance, actually given us a chance to allocate some capital into crypto, into some of your favorite projects, into some of your favorite narratives, which is why I really want you all to pay attention. I really think that crypto is now at this inflection point. We are going to see huge rallies across the board, across sectors, and this rally is going to last, I think, for a very brief time. But I'll tell you about the timelines as well. And of course, we will discuss all of the top news as well. All right. Now, before I get into everything, I just want to give a sort of recap of how these sessions work. Firstly, I just want to say welcome. Welcome to another edition of the weekly crypto brief. If you're new here, first of all, welcome to the community. I'm super glad that you could actually join us today. Even if this is your first session or if you've been tuning in regularly, this is basically a space where we break down everything you need to know about the crypto markets. We'll do it clearly, we'll do it in a calm manner, and we will try and leave out all of the noise and hype. Okay. There is a lot of hype in crypto, there's a lot of confusion, and with the volatility, uh, there are a lot of details that people usually miss out on. Okay. And that's essentially why we have started this series. The idea behind these sessions are very, very simple. Um, every week, we cut through all of the noise. I give you a structured overview of what's actually happening in crypto so you can understand the market and position yourself accordingly. Every week, we follow a very familiar structure, right? And if you've been with us before, you probably know what's coming, but I'll just walk you through it anyway. We usually kick things off with a market analysis. This is where I zoom out a little, look at the big picture, and understand what the broader market is actually doing. What is up with Bitcoin? What's it doing there? How is Ethereum and the rest of the altcoin markets performing? Then we will go ahead and talk about the price action, the key support and resistance levels, any sort of sentiment change that we're seeing. Uh, Now, I know crypto news can feel pretty overwhelming at times, especially when it feels like there are, 10 new things happening every day. Um, but in this section, I'll walk you through only the most important headlines that actually moved the market last week, and some of the headlines that I believe will continue to move the markets in the coming weeks as well. Okay. So this segment is about basically filtering the signal. Not every headline matters in crypto, but the ones that do, we'll unpack them together. From there, we go on to what I like to call the sector in the spotlight. This is my favorite part of the session and probably one of the most valuable if you're looking to get ahead of any sort of trend. Each week, I take one specific area of the crypto market and do a little bit of a deep dive on that. Sometimes it can be very hot narratives like AI or meme coins. Other times it's more fundamental sectors like layer ones, decentralized storage, right? I'll explain why I think this particular sector deserves your attention right now, what's been driving the momentum, and which coins within that sector I am particularly bullish on. So you guys have to wait for that, all right? I'll give you my picks, and I want you all to keep a note of them as well, right? And yeah, finally, I will wrap it up with an open Q&A section. This is where I take your questions. I already see a few hands being raised. Don't worry, guys. I will definitely spend a lot of time answering your questions. Um, just remember that no question is too basic over here. If you've got a doubt about how a specific coin works, what it does, or you're just trying to figure out what next coin to actually add to your portfolio, and you're not too sure about, I'm open to any sort of questions. It can even be product related. Just throw it in the Q&A box and I'll try to get as many as I can. Right? Okay. Now, with that said, let's continue. Okay. Now, with the, set the context, let me just walk you through exactly what we've got lined up for today's session. We're going to keep things structured and sharp, just the way like we always do. So by the time we wrap up, you all will have a full view of what's been driving the crypto markets, what matters right now, and what could come next. Okay, so here's how it's going to go out. We'll kick things off with the market breakdown. We'll start by looking at Bitcoin and then zoom out to the broader altcoin space. Now, I know if you've been tracking the charts recently, you'll know that last week wasn't exactly smooth. We saw a bit of a pullback. Bitcoin dropped, altcoins took a sharper hit, and the overall momentum just basically stalled, right? But if you fast forward to the start of this week, there's a little bit of a vibe shift, right? The market's already showing signs of, bouncing back. And I'll walk you through exactly why we saw that drop in the first place, what caused the recovery, and whether that recovery still has more room to go. Okay. Uh, just a spoiler alert here. Uh, it does. Okay. It does have room to go. I'll explain why as well. From there, we'll shift into a quick but important update on Bitcoin's hash rate. Now, I know hash rate seems to be a very technical sort of topic to be discussing in a weekly crypto brief, but I need you to understand what's happening under the hood when it comes to Bitcoin. It just tells us something about network health, minor confidence, and sometimes even, price expectations. So I'll simplify it. I won't use any sort of technical jargon, just what the numbers are saying right now and why it really matters to you as investors, right? After which, we are going to zoom in on one of my favorite parts of the week's market story. It's basically an on-chain indicator that's flashing a really interesting signal. Uh, it's basically one of those rare metrics that has historically helped call the top of previous cycle tops. And right now, it's telling us that we're still far, far away from any sort of those top levels. Okay. I'll break it down in very, very plain English, what it is, how it works, and what it's saying about Bitcoin's current position in the cycle. After that, I'll be heading into some big picture stuff. Macro will be back in focus, and the US specifically. They've dropped some very, very bullish signals this past week. And of course, I'll be discussing the rate cut expectations and what that means for all our portfolios moving forward. And yeah, and finally, we will come back to talking about the sector, which I am really bullish on for the upcoming weeks. And I'll also discuss the coins within that sector. And yeah, of course, towards the end, we'll wrap up with all of your questions. Okay, so that is the roadmap for today. Cool. Okay, so before we, dive into the charts and the various headlines, I just want to take a quick moment to introduce myself, especially for those of you who are joining us for the first time. My name is Anush, and I'm part of the research team at Mudrex. Now, beyond hosting these live streams and interacting with all of you during our weekly sessions, my day-to-day role is pretty deep in the weeds of the crypto world, right? A large part of what I do revolves around researching emerging narratives, altcoin projects, and any sort of untapped opportunity across this market. Uh, that means scanning for early signals, digging through any sort of tokenomics, analyzing on-chain activity, and basically keeping a close eye on how uh, the different narratives are shifting across this market. So to put it simply, I spend most of my time looking for undervalued altcoins and any sort of early narratives that the market might be ignoring right now, but could very well be bidding up for tomorrow. Okay. Um, I basically use a mix of on-chain tools, fundamental analysis, different technical setups, and just good old-fashioned pattern recognition to try and stay one step ahead of where money might be flowing into next. And yeah, let me be honest here, I practically live on crypto Twitter, not just for the memes, but because Twitter is really where narratives are born. It's where the earliest conversations around new protocols, specific token unlocks, partnerships, all of these tend to start there. Okay. All of that data, all of that noise, all of that information means nothing though, unless we can actually break it down into something meaningful. Okay. And that's exactly why we have decided to start doing these weekly crypto brief sessions. Okay. Every day there's a new token launched. Every day there might be a coin that goes like a 3x, a 5x. Um, and every day there might be a competition to ETH, a new coin that might pop up there again, right? Some of it, let me tell you, is definitely legit. A lot of it, not so much. Okay. So instead of expecting everyone to, spend hours a day trying to keep up, I wanted to build up a space where we could actually cut through all of this hype, slow things down a little, and look at the market with a lot more clarity. Okay. So yeah, I just want you all to know that this is a sort of community. It's a new way of interacting. Just wanted to let you know that no matter your experience level, you can be a beginner, you can be a pro trader in crypto, you can be an OG in crypto. This space is basically for us to learn together. And I hope these sessions help you make better sense of what's going on. And of course, more importantly, help you ask better questions along the way as well. Okay. Um, and let me just tell you, as I've been in the space for around 6 years or so, crypto isn't all about having the answers. Nobody has all of the answers, but it's about learning in public together. So there's a very strong community sense there. Okay. And with that said, I think it's enough about me. I'm glad you're here. Let's get into today's session. Okay. Um, Now, just a quick disclaimer. All of the coins that I'm going to be discussing today should not be treated as financial your own research, do your own research, guys. And remember, just use the tools and platforms that I'm going to be discussing. I'm sure you'll be able to arrive at your own, for your own conclusions here. All right. Okay. Let's kick things off with our weekly market breakdown. Uh, Before I, start talking about what happened, why it happened, and what's going to happen, I want to know from all of you, right? Are you guys still bullish, or has your sentiment sort of gone to neutral? I want to know what and where our community stands right now. Put it in the Q&A box, guys. I want to know exactly what you all think. Are you still bullish? Do you still believe that there's going to be an altcoin season? Do you still believe that crypto is going to boom in the next quarter? Okay, I can see bullish. Archit says bullish. Yeah, okay. I'm seeing a little bit of bullish, a little bit of neutral as well. Bullish, okay, great. Great. I mean, that's that's the conviction that you need to have in crypto, all right? No matter how volatile it might get and how sideways it might get during a bull run, I make no doubt that this is definitely still a bull run. You need to be bullish during these times. When there is fear, when there are red days, I think you need to be extra bullish. I'll talk about why exactly you should be in this moment in time. Okay. But before that, let's just go over what happened over the last week. Now, we've had a bit of everything last week. Okay. We had sharp corrections, we had sudden rebounds, and now we're back in some sort of cool down mode again. Okay. It's been pretty volatile, pretty real roller coaster last week. Okay. Um, so we saw Bitcoin drop to a local low of around 112K, which marked about a 7% pullback from its mid-July highs. And it wasn't just Bitcoin, of course, the entire crypto market retraced a little. Altcoins got hit harder. Uh, so what we usually call the total two, it's a chart that you can find on TradingView, basically calculates the altcoin market cap. Every other coin, excluding Bitcoin, that dropped by more than 3% in a single day. When we see some of the large cap coins, Ethereum, Solana, XRP, most of the big names were down between 6 to 8%, some even more. Okay. So the natural question is what caused this dip, right? There were a few reasons, and they kind of piled on all at once. Okay. So first we had some macro uncertainty which came back in. Basically, the US Federal Reserve kept interest rates steady, but they didn't offer any sort of clarity on rate cuts in the meeting after. Okay. It was one of those, wait and see moments. And that kind of vague language usually tends to spook assets like crypto. Okay. Then came the fresh trade tension headlines. Basically, the US slapped new tariffs on imports from countries like Taiwan, Vietnam, India also, uh, which basically rattled financial markets throughout equities, and of course, crypto also. So we had a pretty textbook pullback. There was macro bearish news. There was a little bit of fear creeping in, and traders started to move to the sidelines, right? Um, but there was one more layer to all of this, and it's very crypto specific, and I want everybody to pay attention to here. There was excessive leverage. Okay, so now if you've been around for a while, you know what I'm about to say. Uh, Basically, in bull markets, traders tend to get greedy. Okay, they start opening heavily leveraged long positions, basically betting that the price will just keep going up with no breaks. And when the market does pull back, those leverage positions, they get liquidated, and they get liquidated fast. All right. So during the sharpest part of this drop, we saw over 700 million worth of long positions wiped out across major exchanges. Okay. And here's the deal, right? Over 93% of those liquidations came from long positions. So this wasn't a slow, organic correction. It was basically something you call as a leverage flush. All right. Even some old wallets, this is another factor as well. Ones that hadn't moved in years started sending coins to exchanges, likely to take profits. And honestly, that is expected after a big run up. Some long term holders locking in gains is just part of the cycle. But this added to the sort of fear and uncertainty that we saw over the last week. But despite all of that, Bitcoin actually held up pretty fairly. It dropped about 4 to 5% on the week, but it respected that important 112K support level, which also happens to line up with the 50-day moving average. So for anybody who's holding Bitcoin right now, this 112K level is something you all need to watch, okay? And also, if you're using TradingView, put the 50-day moving average and just keep a track of that because that has been a very, very key support level for Bitcoin throughout this bull run, right? So we saw a healthy correction, but we saw a bit of a rally, okay? the rebound came. At the start of this week, we saw some momentum actually come back into the market. Bitcoin actually climbed back to around 115K. Ethereum also bounced around 6% off the lows, and altcoins also started showing some signs of life again. Uh, all of this hinted basically that traders were starting to rotate back into crypto. We saw a few mid-cap altcoins rally double digits in a single day, and there were a few reasons behind this bounce. So let me go through that. First, there was some macro relief. Okay, so the latest US jobs report came in weaker than expected, which I know that doesn't sound good, but oddly enough, was interpreted as good news. Basically, I'll explain this, right? A softer job market gives the Fed more room to cut rates sooner, which, as we've discussed, is extremely bullish for crypto. Now, secondly, tariff fears actually eased. There was no further escalation, so markets relaxed a little. And third, we did see some more institutional buying. Metaplanet in Japan added 463 BTC to their holdings. So even as retail investors were nervous, institutions continued accumulating. Okay. But then uh, this was something that I had to update as well. If we fast forward to what's happening now, we've had another slight dip, right? Bitcoin has pulled back again. And I think now it's trading close to 114K. Altcoins have also cooled off slightly. And I think the overall market momentum feels again paused, right? And guess what, guys? That's totally okay. Because here's how I see it, right? This feels like a cool off period. The market is waiting for directionality, for a catalyst, a breakout, something clear. Okay. And in bull markets, from my experience, cool off periods equal opportunities. Okay. They reset leverage, they gave sideline capital time to actually reposition, and they keep the trend healthy. That is the most important point. A market that only continues to go up is never sustainable. Okay. But a market that rallies, that corrects, that holds support, that consolidates, that's a huge sign of strength. Okay. So, where do we stand? We had a sharp pullback, then we had a strong rebound, and now we're in a sort of sideways phase. And honestly, that's perfectly normal, guys, in a longer term bull run. Markets just do not move in a straight line, including crypto. I know crypto can seem like it does at times, but this is a very healthy sign. So I need you all to stay sharp during this time, stay patient, and just remember this: consolidation in a bull market isn't a signal to panic. It's actually a signal to prepare. Okay, prepare for what is coming. All right. Okay. Now that we have covered the price action and how the market bounced back this week, I want to switch gears and talk about something a bit more behind the scenes, but I think is incredibly important, especially if you all are holding Bitcoin or have some exposure to Bitcoin. Okay. This past week, Bitcoin quietly hit a huge milestone. It reached a new all-time high in hash rate, crossing 1 zeta hash per second for the first time ever. Now I know what you're thinking. What even is a hash rate? Why should I care about what a hash rate is? Okay, as an investor, let me just break it down for you. Right, in simple terms, the hash rate is basically a measure of how much computing power is being used to run the Bitcoin network. You can think of it like this, right? Bitcoin is secured by thousands of powerful computers across the world. They're called miners. These machines are constantly solving complex puzzles to validate transactions and add new blocks to the blockchain, right? The hash rate measures how many of these puzzles the entire network is attempting to solve per second. That's the hash rate, right? So the higher the hash rate, the more miners are working, the more energy is being put into the network, the more secure Bitcoin becomes, right? So just to put that into perspective, 1 zeta hash per second, This means the Bitcoin network is now performing more calculations per second than all the CPUs on Earth combined. Okay, it's incredibly large number, and it just tells us something very, very bullish is happening. All right. Now, why is this bullish? Why do I think it's so bullish, right? Uh, it's very simple. One, it shows minor confidence. Miners don't operate on feelings. They operate on profitability. Running mining machines, guys, isn't cheap. Okay, they cost money to buy, they consume a lot of electricity, and they need constant maintenance, right? So when we see hash rate going up, especially to these record highs, it means miners are doubling down. They believe that Bitcoin is still worth mining. They're investing in more machines, expanding operations, and competing ultimately for rewards, right? That only happens when miners are confident in the long-term value of Bitcoin. And remember, these are the folks with the skin in the game. They aren't just speculating, you know, they're not on any sort of hype cycle. They're deploying real money into infrastructure. So if miners are increasing their commitment, it's usually a very, very good sign for Bitcoin's price, right? Number two, it strengthens the network, like I mentioned. A higher hash rate means more machines are actually securing the blockchain. That makes it exponentially harder for anyone to attack or manipulate the network. Okay. Next, it often tracks with long-term price trends. This is something very interesting. Historically, Bitcoin's hash rate tends to lead or support long-term bull markets. That doesn't mean price moves instantly, but when hash rate is rising steadily, it usually reflects strong demand. There's a growing adoption and a very healthy mining economy happening behind the scenes, right? And if you look at the data, many of Bitcoin's biggest price rallies have followed periods of consistent hash rate growth. So the fact that we just crossed this milestone in the middle of a broader market recovery is a very, very strong signal that I see that fundamentals are strengthening. Okay. Uh, you need to just understand this, all right? It's like a heartbeat, right? You may not see it on the surface, but it basically tells you that the system is healthy. All right. Uh, it also shows, this is point four, it also shows that Bitcoin is scaling globally. Let's just zoom out for a second. The move to one Zeta hash didn't happen overnight. It's been building slowly for years as Bitcoin mining has now gone global, right? We're seeing mining operations pop up across North America, Europe, the Middle East, and Asia. Right? Countries are developing their own sort of energy efficient mining hubs. Some are even integrating it into national energy strategies. So this global spread of hash rate decentralizes the network further and really helps reduce reliance on any one sort of regional or regional provider, right? Uh, so when you see the network hitting record highs in hash rate, it's also a sign that Bitcoin's infrastructure is maturing and it's going global. Okay. Okay. So yeah, what you should take away from this, all right? Even though price action gets all of the attention, milestones like this, like the quiet signals that we're seeing now, is very, very key, guys. It's one of those under the surface fundamentals that may not feel that flashy, but it's extremely important. Okay, cool. Let's continue on. Okay, so let's tackle the elephant in the room, right? Um, I think this is the biggest question that I've been asked over the past week. I've been getting messages on my WhatsApp, on Telegram, on Twitter. Is the Bitcoin top in for this cycle? And I get it after the recent dip. Some folks are wondering if that was it, if Bitcoin 123K was the top, if the high is behind us, and if we've already peaked. Uh, but before we jump to conclusions, I want to share one indicator that I've been watching very closely, and that's the 200-week moving average heat map. Okay. Uh, Now, don't worry if that sounds very technical. I'll break it down in simple ways. in the simplest way as possible. Uh, Basically, the 200-week moving average is just a line that tracks Bitcoin's average price over the past 200 weeks. Okay. Uh, it smooths out the day-to-day volatility, basically shows you the long-term trend, no noise, no distraction whatsoever, just the bigger picture. But here's where it gets pretty interesting, right? The heat map part of the indicator adds color. This is what you see on the slide right now. And that color tells you how far above or below Bitcoin's price is from the 200-week average. When the dots are blue or purple, Bitcoin is trading close to that long-term average. Historically, this has happened around major market bottoms. All right. When that dot turns orange or red, it means Bitcoin has gone far above its long-term average. And that's usually been a sort of sign where it tells us that we're getting close to a cycle top. Okay. So basically, this indicator doesn't just track price, it gives you some context. It helps you see where we are in the market cycle. Now, what is the heat map telling us right now? Uh, so the 200-week moving average heat map is flashing a reading of 2.79. Okay. Let me just repeat that once. Okay. 2.79. And if that doesn't mean much to you, let me just give you some context, right? Let's go all the way back to May 2020 when Bitcoin was trading at around $9,000 per coin. This exact indicator was at 2.79 at that time. Okay. This was before the big breakout, before the rally to 69K. Now, fast forward to the top of the last bull market in April 2021, the reading was 11.32. That's the level where things were clearly overheated. So where are we now? We're at the same level as the beginning of the last bull run and nowhere near the levels we've historically seen at cycle tops. So I mean that tells me, and this is important, we still have plenty of room to run. Okay. Now look, I want to put a disclaimer here. No single indicator is perfect. Nothing in crypto ever gives you 100% certainty. But this indicator, this heat map, has been remarkably accurate at identifying any sort of long-term extremes. Okay. So track this, guys. Go on to a site called Bitcoin Magazine Pro, type this, use this as a tool, okay, to make your own decisions. But I would highly advise you all to check this out when you're doing your own research. Okay. Okay. So what does this mean for you, right? Uh, See, the market just had a pullback. Some traders are calling it the top, but this indicator, it's saying, chill out. We're not in the red zone yet. This doesn't look like a top. This I say more looks like a launch pad. All right. Of course, things can change, macro conditions can shift, but based on this long-term trend line and where we are relative to it, the markets is still in that early to mid cycle zone, is what I would say. Okay, cool. Also, guys, if you want access to this indicator, just raise your hand or put it in the Q&A box. I'm going to send you the link right away. All right. Yeah, just put it in the Q&A box. I can come back to it in the Q&A session and I'll send you this indicator so that you guys can start using it right away. Okay. Let's go ahead with the next. Okay. Okay, then this point is really important, guys. Um, September rate cut. Okay. We've covered this in the previous streams as well. Let's talk about it again. Let's talk about one of the most important, I would say, macro developments happening right now and why it's such a huge deal for crypto. Okay. So now we are currently looking at an 85% chance that the US Federal Reserve will cut interest rates in September. Okay. Yeah, 85% chance. And I know I've mentioned this in past sessions, but I'm going to say it again because I think it's that important for anyone who's investing in crypto or just observing the crypto market right now. All right. To understand what's happening, we need to talk about something very simple but very important. I spoke about this a little earlier, called the jobs report. Now, every month, the US government releases a report that shows how many jobs were added to the economy, how many people are looking for work, and what wages are doing. It's one of the key signals for the Fed when actually deciding interest rate policy. Okay. Now, in a healthy and growing economy, you would expect strong job growth, more people getting hired, businesses expanding, etc. Right? But in the most recent report, the US added only about 73,000 jobs. That's much, much lower than what people were expecting. So it tells us that the economy might be slowing down, and more importantly, that the job market is starting to cool. And here's the key point, right? When the job market cools, inflation also tends to come down. That's because fewer people are earning higher wages, which equals less spending, which equals less price pressure. So you see this knock-on effect, right? And when inflation cools, the Fed gets more comfortable with the idea of cutting interest rates to stimulate the economy again. Okay? So you get the idea, right? And that is exactly what we're seeing now. Many analysts are saying that this is why people are expecting at least a 85% chance of a rate cut happening in September. Okay. Just to give you a sense of how dramatic this same probability was sitting below 40% just a week ago. That odds have skyrocketed in a few days, right? Uh, so yeah, things are moving fast, guys. Uh, Now, let me just bring it back to crypto. Why is this bullish for crypto? Every time the Fed cuts interest rate, it becomes cheaper to borrow money, which means more liquidity enters the system. And that liquidity often flows into riskier assets like stocks and, yes, crypto, right? When rates are low, people aren't just parking money in government bonds or savings accounts, they're actually chasing higher returns, right? And that leads them to assets like Bitcoin and altcoins, DeFi tokens, you name it, right? Historically, I would say some of the biggest bull runs have either coincided with or followed periods of easing monetary policy. So if the Fed actually cuts in September, and I think that is looking more and more likely, it could act as, I think, the biggest catalyst for the next leg of the crypto cycle. Okay. Now, I want to touch on this as well. You might be wondering, why are we always talking about US interest rates? What about other countries? I think that's a very fair question. But I have to tell you that the US is the center of global finance, right? When the US cuts rates, it doesn't just affect Wall Street, it impacts global capital markets, okay, emerging economies, and of course, crypto liquidity worldwide, right? Most crypto volume is still denominated in US dollars. Most stable coins are pegged to USD, and most of the crypto funds, whether they're in Singapore, Dubai, or London, are still watching what the Federal Reserve is going to do. Okay. So when the Fed cuts rates, it has massive ripple effect across the entire crypto ecosystem. Okay. Cool, guys. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of questions, guys. Just remember that I will definitely get to all of your questions, and I will definitely share this indicator as well. Uh, I will do all of this towards the end of the session, all right? I've noted your names down, guys. Don't think that I'm going to ignore you all. I will definitely share this indicator as well. Okay, let's move on then. Cool. Okay, so before we jump into this week's sector spotlight, I want to talk about a really interesting stat that's been doing the rounds this week. And I think it deserves a moment of our attention uh, because I think it really reveals something kind of staggering, especially for those of us, who are really invested in this space. Uh, so basically, a few days ago, Fred Krueger, He's a well-known quant and crypto investor, shared some data that mapped out how Bitcoin is distributed across the globe. And according to that data, here's what it shows, right? The United States holds around 40% of the total Bitcoin supply. That's roughly 7.8 million BTC. And India, India holds around 1 million BTC, or roughly 5.1% of the entire supply. Okay. That's second in the world. All right. Let that just sink in for a second. India ranks number two globally in Bitcoin ownership, right behind the US and ahead of Europe, China, and the rest of Asia. Right. Now, this is this is pretty surprising and this says a lot. Okay. If you've been around the space for a while, that number is honestly shocking, right? Because remember, this all of this is happening despite a 30% tax on crypto gains, a 1% TDS on every trade, no sort of significant institutional participation yet, and still a lot of regulatory uncertainty. And yet, Indian users, primarily retail, have managed to stack up over 1 million bitcoins. That tells us one thing loud and clear. Okay, the demand is real. The conviction is here. Right? People are opting into Bitcoin, not because it's easy, but in spite of the friction. Okay. Now imagine this. What if things changed? Imagine clearer tax policies that encourage investment rather than penalize it, a supportive regulatory framework that attracts institutional interest, domestic funds, pension schemes, or even government-backed institutions allocating to BTC, just like we're seeing in the US. If that happens, and it's not a question of if, I firmly believe this, but when, India could easily scale up to become the largest Bitcoin owning nation on earth. Because we've already seen what can happen when retail leads the way, right? Now imagine what's possible when institutions join the party, right? The reason I bring this up, of course, is it isn't just national pride. It's about understanding where the next leg of crypto growth could come from, right? Now, India has a population of 1.4 billion people, one of the youngest demographics in the world, a growing digital economy, tech savvy, rising interest in alternative assets. All the ingredients are here. And this ownership data just confirms what many of us have, I guess, sensed all along. Uh, I don't, I think we all have the idea that India is not just participating in this cycle, it's actually helping drive it. Okay. So this stat isn't just a sort of bragging right. I think it's a proper signal. It tells us where attention is headed. And if you're in this space, if you've been positioned, you have been positioned very, very early, guys. It's another reason to be excited about the direction we're moving in. Okay. Okay. So next up, I want you all to, get your notepads out or get your notes app ready. I'm going to jump into the sector in the spotlight, and I want you all to pay attention here because I do believe that this sector is the next to pop. All right. And I also detail the coins that I'm looking into the sector. Okay. Okay, as you see it, guys, the sector in the spotlight this week is without a doubt Web3 gaming. Okay. Uh, Now, if you've been tuning into these sessions for a while, you'll remember something I've said before uh, during bull markets. Crypto doesn't move all at once. It moves like popcorn. Okay. One kernel pops here, another one there, and suddenly the whole bowl starts popping. Okay. And I truly believe the next kernel to pop is Web3 gaming. Okay. Uh, Now, here's why I'm saying this now. We've started seeing a dramatic surge in search traffic for crypto gaming. Not just random noise, but real search interest on Google, right? People looking into projects, ecosystems, and trying to understand what even is Web3 gaming, right? And that kind of trend we haven't seen this in years, right? Not since 2020, 2021, right? In my experience, rising search volume is one of the first signs that retail is actually waking up. Okay. That curiosity is starting to flow, usually comes before price action, and it's often what kicks off a narrative rally or a sector wide rally. Okay. Now, this sector has been dormant for a while. It's been very, very quiet around Web3 gaming. But the early signs, on chain and off chain, for me are flashing green again. Okay. Now, I want to spend some time on actually describing what Web3 gaming is, why any of you should even put any money into Web3 gaming. So, I'll talk about this a little while. Web3 gaming basically combines blockchain with video games. Okay. So, instead of just playing for fun, you can actually earn value, own your own in-game assets, and you can trade those as well freely, right? Think about it like skins, like weapons, land, characters. These are no longer locked to your account. Okay. They can be treated as an NFT, non-fungible token, and they're yours. You truly own this, all right? And the economies, they're tokenized, right? Meaning players can actually earn crypto rewards. They can stake their assets or participate in in-game economies with actual value there. Okay, so the value proposition is simple. Play games, own your stuff, and earn while doing it. Okay. Now, like I said, Web3 gaming isn't new. It had its moment back in 2021. If some of you guys were here, I'm sure you might recognize these names like Axie Infinity, Sandbox, Decentraland. All of these were dominating headlines, right? But since then, of course, interest faded, builders kept quietly building, and now search traffic and early investors' flows are starting to actually come back. It feels like the next popcorn kernel is about to pop, honestly. Right? So let me now go ahead and tell you the projects that I am looking at. I've already added them to my watch list, and I do think I'm going to start allocating positions. First up is Gala Games. Okay. Gala is an OG in the space. It was one of the earliest big players in the Web3 gaming space. And while it's had its ups and downs, the ecosystem has actually held its ground. Okay? Tons of partnerships, studios, and there's always some sort of development that's happening there. Okay, so legacy matters, and I'm definitely looking at Gala for this. Next is Beam. Okay. I know that some of you already hold Beam. I can see a few names here from my previous sessions who wanted me to do a little bit of analysis on Beam. Uh, and I think this is the right time to be holding Beam, guys. I can see those names on call already. Okay. But yeah, Beam is a bit more under the radar. It's being built as a gaming focused layer one with an emphasis on speed, low fees, and seamless integration basically for game developers. So Beam is another one. And my last pick over here would be Superverse. Okay. This one I'm going to put it as a high risk, high reward category play simply because this is more of a community play. There's been a lot of talk about Superverse across Twitter, across YouTube communities, and I just feel like where attention is, that's where money flows. Superverse is gaining that attention. Community is growing very, very rapidly. So I'm not going to allocate too much into Superverse, but I'm definitely looking at it from a high risk, high reward play. All right. So, what I would say right now, I would say that we're not in some full blown, uh, you know, Web3 gaming season yet. But if this trend continues, it could become one of the standout sectors of this cycle, right? So, keep an eye on Web3 gaming, not just for this coming week, but I would say for the entirety of August. Okay. And we will circle back in September to see if we were right. All right. Um, so yeah, Web3 gaming is definitely a sector for all of you to just have a look at. All right. Cool. Okay. Now, before I actually go on to discussing why I think selling your coins in August might be a huge mistake, I wanted to add another bonus sort of sector for you all. I was initially only planning to cover Web3 gaming today, but there was some breaking news that came in just last night that could be a big, big deal for crypto, for a specific crypto sector. All right. And I want to talk about that. All right. Uh, I hope you all have heard of staking, right? So there is a sector in crypto that deserves a spotlight now, and that's called liquid staking. Okay. Um, Firstly, I'll just explain what liquid staking is. When you stake your tokens, say for example, Ethereum or Solana, you usually lock them up to help secure the network. And in return, you earn rewards, right? The problem is once you stake, your tokens are locked. You can't trade them, you can't move them, or you can't use them in DeFi unless you wait through an unstaking period. Okay? Liquid staking basically solves this problem. With liquid staking, you still stake your tokens, but you also get a receipt token in return. Think of it like a voucher that says, hey, you've staked your ETH, and here's a token that represents it. You can actually hold it, you can trade it, you can use it as collateral in DeFi, all while continuing to earn staking rewards in the background. Okay? So, in simple terms, it's staking with flexibility. Now, here's the big news, right? So, last night, the US SEC came out with a new statement that said certain forms of liquid staking, specifically those where the provider is only playing a sort of administrative role, are not considered securities. Okay, so in other words, if a liquid staking platform is just giving you a token that represents your staked position and they're not managing your money or choosing where to stake it, then that receipt token is not a security. Okay, that means no SEC registration, there is no extra regulation, and a much, much smoother path forward for the protocols offering these services. Okay. Uh, Now this is just huge. This is huge for crypto and especially for liquid staking protocols. Okay. It clears up legal uncertainty. It opens the doors for institutions. Okay, think about it. If these tokens aren't securities, that means regulated funds and platforms, including ETFs, can potentially start including liquid staking products without jumping through any sort of hoop, right? Um, so yeah, I think liquid staking projects are another sector that I really want you all to look at. And in terms of projects, think of the likes like Lido DAO, right? I think that one has a huge, huge use case now. And Jito on Solana, massive, massive use case, guys. And it already had a huge use case, but now it's just got this green light from the SEC. Okay, I don't think um, price has factored this in yet. The market hasn't realized what's happening here yet. But when we start seeing altcoins rally, we'll see these fundamentally bullish news actually picking up steam, and we'll see all of these coins actually pick up some serious momentum, right? Cool. Okay, now what you see on your screen right now, why selling crypto in August might be a big mistake. Okay. Let me just call it what it is. Fear, it's there right now. Okay. Over the past week, we've seen this. We've seen tariff headlines. We've seen weak US job reports, a dip in crypto liquidity. We've also seen some ETF outflows. I get it. These kinds of headlines can definitely rattle your confidence. But after a strong run earlier this year, some people are actually starting to wonder, is it time to exit? But here's where I'd say, guys, you have to zoom out. None of this changes the bigger picture. In fact, I think it might be setting up a perfect storm for the months to come for Q4 as well, right? So, firstly, remember the seasonality. Historically, August has been pretty weak for Bitcoin, pretty weak for traditional markets itself. It's a recurring theme. Uh, but here's the thing, right? A slow August doesn't mean a bearish cycle. This isn't 2022. The whole landscape has shifted. Okay. What we're seeing now feels more like a cool off period, not a breakdown. And sometimes cooling off is what the market needs to gear up for the next move, right? Now let's flip the lens and let's look forward. There have been some bearish news over the past week, but what bullish catalyst is there, right? There's so many ways. Q4 could be packed with several catalysts. Firstly, I spoke about this earlier. US rate cuts now look more likely than ever. All right. Then there is ongoing regulatory clarity from the SEC and maybe even in India, right? And the possibility of more altcoin ETF approvals as well. Okay. So when you zoom out, what we're seeing now shouldn't be treated as a red flag. It might just be the calm before the breakout. All right. So if you're feeling uncertain, if you're feeling any sort of pain right now, the market rewards patience. Okay. Just remember that, guys. Just remember that continue to be patient, continue to do your own research, and the market will reward you. All right. Cool. Okay, guys, before we jump into the Q&A, I want to give a quick shout out to anyone who's new to Mudrex and hasn't made their first deposit yet. If that's you guys, this is the perfect time to get started, and we want to help you in that journey with a little something. Okay. This is how this works. When you deposit 5,000 rupees or more into your Mudrex account, we'll instantly credit you with 500 rupees worth of Bitcoin. Okay, there's no hidden conditions, there's no lock-ins, there's no complicated steps. Okay, just use the code that you're seeing on your screen right now, Anush500, during your first deposit, and you'll see that bonus BTC land in your account right away. Okay, it's our way of saying thanks for showing up, thanks for being here live, and of course, more importantly, thanks for taking the first step into crypto. And yeah, honestly, if you've been watching what's happening in crypto, this is your sign to take action. And there's no better way to kick off your journey than by getting your hands on some Bitcoin, especially when it's on us. Okay? You're already here, you're already learning. Now take that next step, get started, and we'll send a little BTC your way to celebrate as well. Okay? So I urge you all, guys, use the code, pick up some free Bitcoin, and start getting involved. Yep. Cool. Um, all right. Guys, also remember that we have a whole host of channels for you to join our community. We have Twitter. I encourage you all to go and follow us on Twitter. All of the breaking news, for example, the one that I spoke about regarding the SEC and liquid staking narratives, all of that we prioritize this sort of news and we put it out on Twitter first. So I really, really encourage you to go and follow our Twitter. You see the link on the slide, and also all of the news regarding the new token listings are on Twitter as well. So please go ahead and see that. We have weekly listings every Thursday, and check it out. Maybe a coin that we haven't listed yet might just be out this week, right? So that's the place to get the latest information on when a coin drops. All right. Of course, we also have a Telegram community. We host a lot of live streams there as well. So do join us there. And we do have some trade signals if you're into futures trading as well. So go ahead and check out our insights channel on Telegram as well. Okay, cool. I guess, guys, we can go ahead and get into your questions. I really want to know what your questions are like. Uh, Let me start with the. Okay, firstly, let me give you all that indicator. All right. So Bitcoin. So guys, you can find this as well. Just type in Bitcoin Magazine Pro. It's a free tool. Once you're in there, you'll see a drop down that basically says charts. You go on to Bitcoin charts, and I'm going to send you this link right now. Okay, I see a few over here, but guys, I want you all, anybody who's missed on this, just say indicator, please, and I will definitely send that link across. Okay. Apil, I'm sending you as well. Tanmay, I have sent you the indicator. Okay. Okay. So Tanmay has a question here. Please share some best strategies and tell about futures and some basic coins. Okay. So in terms of strategies, Tanmay, always remember to follow a process, right? There is definitely technicals. Technical analysis is one. Then there is also on-chain analysis, and then there's fundamental analysis. As a beginner, I will always say start with fundamentals because that's the easiest to grasp. Most people avoid even fundamental analysis, and that's why they lose in crypto. Okay, but if you're starting, start with fundamental analysis. Divide your coins by market cap. So just like how you would in stocks, right? Your large cap, mid cap, small cap, and then look into sectors. So don't treat crypto as individual coins. That's the biggest mistake. Treat crypto like different sectors, right? So there is AI sector, there's gaming, there is layer ones. It's always good to have a diversified portfolio this way. So maybe put one layer one AI, one gaming, and if you want a little more riskier, maybe meme coins, right? Some basic coins, I would say if you're beginning, just start with uh, some blue chips. Okay, so basically Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and I would also say Sui because Sui has it's a little bit more risky, but definitely showing very, very positive growth and like the potential for upside is really there. Uh, and apart from that, if I'm going to give you a fifth coin, I'd probably say Cardano, ADA. Big community. They're an OG coin. And yeah, technically it looks very, very sound right now. Okay, cool. Uh, okay, folks, any other questions, guys? Any coins that you're looking at that you want me to discuss? I'm happy to do it. Okay, I see Sudarshan's hand is raised. So I'm just going to allow you to talk, Sudarshan. You can go ahead and ask your question. Yes, Sudarshan. Okay, I'll come back to you then. Uh, okay, let's go ahead and see the chat. Coin sets, yes. Yeah, coin sets is a great choice for newbies, especially. Um, there is Blue Chip Coin Set, which is a fantastic tool. Basically, you need to think of coin sets as a mutual fund. Um, it's like a mutual fund for crypto, right? A basket of different cryptos in just one. So basically, in one click, you're getting the entire very diversified portfolio, right? Continue doing that. Continue being in the blue chip. But if you're looking for other smaller caps, right? I would say just go into rather than coin sets, you can look into these individual coins, like you mentioned. SPX, I would say play it safe. Just be careful there. Uh, Cardano, XRP, great bets. Okay, great plays. Just hold them because I do think that when altcoin season truly kicks off, XRP and Cardano will run. Okay, they have very strong fundamentals, very, very strong communities. All right. Okay, I'm seeing a lot more questions come about. Let me just open this. I think it's futures related as well. Let me just see this. Uh, okay, so how are what are the best futures coins? Okay, so just give me a second, guys. I'm seeing a lot of questions here. I'm getting some on the Telegram community as well. I think some of you have been in the Telegram community and are asking them here. So let me just pull that up. Uh, just give me a second. Okay, best futures coins. A lot of requests for this. Okay, I see that. How many of you here are futures traders? Can you just put a yes on the Q&A just to get an idea? Okay, okay, okay. So there are a lot of futures traders. Great, guys. Um, so I would say best futures coins. It depends again on your experience levels. But Solana is a great trade. Always remember, do not over leverage. Like I mentioned in the webinar as well, do not you know leverage was one of the biggest reasons why we saw a dip, right? Many people over leverage positions, and this led to a collapse, right? Do not over leverage, go for 2 to 3x max and stick to blue chips. Just stick to blue chips. Use our trade signals, guys. We have in-app trade signals now, and the accuracy rate for this is actually immense. All right. I think it's over 80% accurate, and all the trade signals are within the app now. So if you just go on to futures, if you scroll down a little, you'll be able to see trade ideas, and these are you know every day they're updated. So we have a team who actually does this as well. All right, so check that out. Some of the best calls, you can find it directly within the app. Okay, but continue, guys, continue to do your own research. All right. Okay. uh what else? Are there any other? Okay, okay, guys, I am going to, I guess, end the call for today. I will definitely be back again with you all next week, same time, 4 p.m. Remember to tune in then. And guys, just remember, bull markets, we have corrections, but we are nowhere close to a top yet. All right, cool. Thank you all. Thank you all for joining me. I will see you all next week. See you.